Invitation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. Item number 1 is the agenda approval.
I move we approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 2, approval of minutes, May 20th, 2025.
I'll move we approve the minutes for May 20th.
A second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Item 3, general rezoning, RC 25.03, 0.01, 0 Lawrence Daniel Drive. Davis Marsh requested general rezoning of 0 Lawrence Daniel Drive from MU2 to MFT.
Alright, so this is a general rezoning application for 0 Lawrence Daniel Drive. This request is to rezone from mixed use 2 to multifamily transitional. And I want to make that clear that it doesn't actually allow multifamily housing, only single family detached homes. It used to in the past, but not anymore. And then, so on April 29th, we had a neighborhood meeting, and some of the residents from the adjoining neighborhood came out and voiced some concerns about traffic and noise, and I'll address those a little bit later in the presentation as well. So you can see the aerial view on the left shows the parcel connecting to the Woodbridge neighborhood. It connects onto the cul-de-sac on Lawrence Daniel Drive, and this parcel used to be larger but has since been subdivided for this rezoning. And then on the right side you can see the street view, where just the woods are now, is the parcel that we were talking about during this rezoning. And then some history about the property. As you can see in the image, the parcel has been subdivided. This rezoning only concerns that front portion that connects to Lawrence Daniel Drive. The rear portion is mostly floodplain, which cannot be developed on. So they subdivided the property to make it easier to put homes on that property. And then a little bit more history. It was last rezoned in 2018 when the town did their mass rezoning. It was originally R10, which was just a residential zoning district, and is now mixed use 2, which allows for a variety of commercial uses as well. Previously, this property was the exact same zoning as the rest of the Woodbridge neighborhood, but that Woodbridge neighborhood has since been rezoned to MFT. And this on the right, you can see the current zoning, which shows in the green the mixed use 2 zoning district. And I also wanted to make it kind of just give you some background on what could actually be built on this property if it was to be rezoned to MFT. That's a single family residential zoning district, so all it would allow to be built are single family homes. Based on the fact that the applicant does not want to go through the major development review process, they could build up to 4 homes on the lot, but just depending on choice of the applicant and some utility easements, they might not be able to do all 4, but it could be up to 4 homes built on that property that could be accessed through a private drive. And then in our comprehensive land use plan, we have a future land use map that shows this area as being single family neighborhood, as well as the entire neighborhood of Woodbridge. And another approved plan we have, or adopted plan we have, is for the Idlewild Road Small Area Plan, which also shows this neighborhood as single family detached homes. You can see in the red circle there. But staff does recommend approval of RZ 250301 to rezone this property to multifamily transitional. This would be consistent with the future land use plan and the small area plan, and it would make a seamless transition in between the Woodbridge neighborhood, and would allow to keep that Woodbridge neighborhood, protect the character of that neighborhood, so that way no commercial developments could be built attached to that cul-de-sac. And we did address some concerns from the residents about traffic. They also talked about their property values, but we do believe that this rezoning will allow the greatest use of that land without hurting the surrounding neighborhood. Do you have any questions about that?
Said it was gonna be, once they would build up to the four homes, it would be accessed by a private drive.
Yes.
Where would that come in from? From the entrance to the subdivision that's next to it?
Yes, that cul-de-sac. So right here, it touches the cul-de-sac wide enough for a drive to be put in.
Okay,
So they could have one that stems off of that and supplies up to 4 houses.
okay.
Katie, under the current zoning, what are some examples of things that could be built there now?
There's, I forgot the number, but it's a lot of uses. It's like 70-something, 80-something uses, and it could be like bars, restaurants, pretty much most commercial uses can be built on that lot currently by right. So they're just trying to, protect the neighborhood and only allow single-family homes to be built there instead of having a bar becoming your neighbor.
Thank you.
So there'd be potentially worse traffic if commercial development were there than
Yes.
residential. Would the houses going in there be of a similar style to what is in the Woodbridge neighborhood, do you know?
Yes, they would
Okay.
have to complement the Woodbridge
Okay.
neighborhood.
And would the existing cul-de-sac remain and this would just stem off of the cul-de-sac?
Yes, yeah, it would not affect the actual flow of
Okay.
the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
Is it served by the sewer system or septic?
I'm not sure about that one. And the applicant is here as well if you have questions for
Okay.
them.
And how many homes again?
It can be up to 4, but that's not set that they will build 4.
Right.
They could build 1, but up to 4.
Any other questions? No? Motion
I move that we approve the request and find that it's consistent and reasonable with the land use plan.
I second it.
All
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 4, conditional rezoning, CZ 25.02.01, Mill Creek Residential. Applicant is requesting annexation and zoning change from HC Union County zoning to CZ-MU-2 to allow for the development of a 324-unit multifamily residential development. Mr. Max.
Thank you, Planning Board. I just wanted to show the statement of consistency and reasonableness for the previous general rezoning, just so that, just for the record, I just wanted to show it. Give me just 1 second to pull up. Yes, there it is. All right, so this is conditional rezoning application CZ 250201 for Mill Creek. Multi-family residential. So the applicant, Warren Van Allen, who is assisting Mill Creek, requests an annexation and a conditional zoning to conditional zoning mixed use 2 for the area off of Highway 74 that's 12.57 acres in size. I'll show you the aerial on the next slide. The proposed development includes 300 to 324 unit multifamily residential community and has a possibility of 6,000 square foot commercial on one of the site plans. I did want to let you know that Planning Board will not be making a recommendation on annexation. You're only making a recommendation on the conditional zoning today. The annexation goes to council. So this existing parcel is located in Union County, and it's zoned highway commercial, HC. It does not permit residential development by right, so this is why they're doing the annexation and the conditional zoning to multifamily. The aerial on Highway 74, so the site's wooded, and it's one of the last parcels on Highway 74 up for annexation along Stallings and Indian Trail. As you can see in the picture to the right, Stallings is in pink and Indian Trail's in blue. Very close to the fitness connection area with the cookout and the Biscuitville, Starbucks. It's very close to that parcel of Highway 74. They've submitted multiple site plans, and I did want to show you 2 site plans along with their submittal, and I want planning board's recommendation on what they want to see as well. So the submitted site plan that they originally submitted had 324 multifamily units. It didn't include any commercial. Staff since the very beginning has been pushing them on commercial along Highway 74. We see that that's the development pattern along Highway 74. And so site plan A is just residential only. I did want to show you site plan B as well, and site plan B is a little bit larger, more detailed because it's a newer site plan, and it incorporates in the red a 6,000 square foot retail building, and it reduces the units from 324 to 300 units. Staff does like this site plan better. We would still like to see more commercial. Here's an elevation concept. Since this is conceptual, just wanted to make sure you saw what the product may look like. Some just additional information for the project summary. The adjacent zoning is C74 commercial, and they would be required to do open space of 10%, which they're providing 12. They would be required to do tree save, which they are, of 6%, which they are requiring. That TV just turned off, so I apologize. I have to look at this one now. They are in the watershed, Crooked Creek watershed, which is one of the most difficult watersheds. It's with capacity, but Union County does control sewer there, and I would save sewer capacity questions for the developer if possible. There's no small area plan for the area, but I will have a slide on it coming up. The future land use for this property, so we adopted the future land use and comprehensive land use plan in 2017, which is honestly a very different time. It shows suburban office center on the site, and as you can see, it's surrounded by suburban office center as well. At the time, Highway 74 did not have the bypass, and we didn't know how the future of the bypass was going to, or the expressway was going to affect the town. We also see that there's less need for office spaces as well after certain times. So staff does see this as an outdated future land use, but just wanted to let you know that it was comprehensive land use plan was adopted in 2017 for suburban office center on this site. It is consistent with our Greenway master plan as well. The site isn't in our Greenway master plan, but they are providing Greenway along the frontage. I believe that they've changed the location and widened it on the second site plan, but I'm forgetting the numbers at this point. I can't see the screen, so I apologize. I should have had it printed out in front of me. If the developers can mention it. Okay, thanks. We also adopted a new small area plan for the Highway 74 corridor. Thank you. That incorporates the Silver Line plan. This site is circled in red. It wasn't incorporated in the study area, but across the street, across from Highway 74, it does show an employment district that is accessible with the Silver Line in the future. We had a few meetings on this already. We did all the rezonings per state statute, the notifications per state statute and the ordinance. We had a meeting on March 6th. We did not have anybody from the public come to the meeting, and I do believe it's because there's no residential within 500 feet of this development. And we had a subcommittee meeting, which is a council, not open to the public meeting with 3 council members, where they did discuss the proposal, and tonight's the planning board meeting, and the town council hearings on July 14th, and I put TBD just because that the future dates are always not set in stone. So staff does recommend approval of this conditional zoning. We do recommend adding a few conditions though, but only we're recommending approval of the site that has the commercial component. Staff still does want to see the additional commercial, but I've talked to the developer about these conditions, and they've agreed to some, and it's a moving process, so we'll make compromises throughout the conditional zoning process. But I did want to make sure that planning board saw these recommendations so you can base your decisions on what staff has recommended. We do see that balconies are not located in the elevations. They did agree to balconies, just not on every single side of the building. We did want architectural aesthetics, including materials, building elevations, that come back to planning board as a recommendation. I'm not sure that the applicant wants to do that this time. They just want to do it at staff level after, if it was approved by council. But I'll let them mention that. 18 inches of exposed brick seems like is reasonable to the developer. And then the commercial component requiring to be constructed prior to the issuance of permits for more than 2/3 of the residential units is still not agreed to upon, but I do believe that council, we had a conditional zoning for a different development. They wanted this condition in that development, and I'm going to push for a certain type of condition like this going through the process. Private streets maintained, that's fine. Vested rights, I think they're asking for 7 actually. I'm okay with that. And then the commercial component, not to include vape shops, tobacco retailers, smoke shops, hookah bars, and things that are like that, they're okay with. We're bringing a text amendment to council next week. Is it next week? Yeah. To change where those uses are located. My recommendations based on the mix of commercial and residential uses align with the adopted small area plan. Additionally, reflects the development pattern along Highway 74. And they also show greenway, which is consistent with the goals of the greenway, even though that's not on our plan. Do you have any questions for me about what I've presented tonight?
Is the only means of ingress and egress directly to Highway 74?
So that would be the main entrance.
Okay.
They do have easements along their buffer area to connect to the surrounding parcels.
Okay.
If those were to be developed in the future. I think the one to the north is an automotive repair in Stallings. They're not planning on connecting to that at this time. And then to the south is a commercial building in Indian Trail that's already built out. They're just putting an easement there. And then the one to the, which would be north actually on the site plan, I believe is going through a rezoning. I talked to the developer briefly, I can't remember exactly, but that's an Indian Trail. If they want to mention it, they can. But it's for future development to connect to. Yes.
Given our need for commercial development here, had we looked at plans to use this area for something other than a housing unit? And if there was anything discussed for like grocery stores?
Could you repeat your question?
I'm sorry, so given our need for commercial revenue, was there anything looked at in the current plan that this port, instead of being used for residential, could be used fully for commercial uses?
So we didn't have a study showing what you're asking for.
Okay.
We have not looked into that. The future land use plan does show it as an office.
No, I meant
I know,
office part, right?
but sorry, yeah, we just have not done a study
Okay.
on the feasibility of the entire site being commercial, which would likely probably be the case if we were to study it in a future land use plan, but we don't have any data to support that at this time.
Okay.
You showed us the small area plan that shows it as the office, where I have the way that it's proposed in the future space. So if we were to say, okay, we move forward with this, would we want to find it inconsistent but reasonable?
Yes,
Hypothetically?
that would be the hypothetical
Okay.
answer, yes.
Question 2 is, can you explain where this fits in with, how it ties in with, I know council controlled the majority of this, with the annexation process? and where our rezoning fits in? Like, I'm assuming if there's no rezoning, there's no annexation.
Well, they could annex the property and not do any rezoning.
Right.
But the process aligns together. So, for example, they're allowed to submit the annexation request and the conditional zoning because they want to do this multifamily site, which is required to be a conditional zoning in the Stallings ordinance. Now, they have the option to not annex it and do Union County. They could go to Indian Trail, but they decided to come to Stallings first. And the annexation process is 3 meetings, where the conditional zoning is 4 meetings minimum. So we had to make sure all those meetings aligned with each other, and the planning board is kind of just stuck somewhere in the middle, just recommending only the conditional zoning. So those 3 annexation meetings only go to council, and annexations don't come to the planning board. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I kind of...
No, there's a lot of
rambling.
steps. I wanted to make
Yes.
sure that I understood.
Yeah.
connected
So
all.
essentially, Mill Creek has to have 7 meetings, or they can overlap though, but
At least.
yeah, or 7 items on each, total.
So Max, given this would be a lot of additional residential, does it cause any burden on town services that would be that would go beyond the tax base that would be gained from it?
So since the roads are private now, yes with police though.
Okay.
And then they, at this time, haven't submitted like any traffic impact analysis. They're not required to do so with a conditional zoning, so we don't know how, but they would be required to do so before they do site plan review.
Okay.
We don't know what those recommendations would be at this point. But I don't see any specific services that Stallings controls that would be affected other than police.
Difficult for the fire department if they're.
Yes, but
Yeah.
they're their own department. Stallings isn't over fire. Union County has their own fire department. Things like that. Does that answer your question? Okay. The developer's also here. They would like to present if you want to hear from them. And I'd be here
Sure.
for any more questions if you have any for me.
Massage parlor. They listed a lot of stuff. To be off of 74, it's
Good evening. My name is Lisa Thompson. I'm a land use consultant with Moore & Van Allen. I'm here tonight on behalf of Mill Creek Residential. Also with us tonight with the Mill Creek team is Justin Houston and Alex Easton. The site designer for the site was Land Design. They couldn't be here tonight, but hopefully we can get through any questions that you have. I don't want to repeat anything that Max stated, so I am going to jump straight to this kind of overall aerial. Again, the property is 12.57 acres. As you can see, it's surrounded by industrial to the north and south. And like Max mentioned, this property behind us is located in Indian Trail, and they did just approve another industrial project last month. So that is planned industrial as well. But also you can see the limited access to the site with the divided street section for Highway 74 with the U-turn bulb. It makes it hard for commercial access for the site. So we think multifamily is the best and highest use for this site. So like Max mentioned, our original proposal was for 324 units under that MU2 zoning district. What you'll find in the packet is our rezoning site plan and 2 or 3 pages of development standards. Those are legally binding conditions of the development. We will continue to update those as the project moves throughout the process. We did work with staff through the site plan review process to add additional street trees along the frontage. We also expanded the multi-use path from an 8-foot to a 12-foot wide path for better connectivity to the properties to the north and south. And then we were asked to provide some better amenity around the BMPs, so we added additional landscaping to the pond out front. Since then, we had met with the town subcommittee. They did provide some feedback that they would like to see more commercial. So this plan looks very similar, but we did lose 24 units and swapped this building out with a maximum of 6,000 square feet of commercial. So we have a total of 300 units. The access is a right in, right out along 74. Centralized open space and green space. We have 30-foot buffers around the site. And then, as Max mentioned, over 12% open space with connectivity to the north and south. Given the approved plan for the industrial park adjacent to the site and Indian Trail, they don't have access, cross-access, so we'll probably remove that connection to the north. Here's some precedent images. You see the gable roofs, the variety of materials and landscape to soften the front. Here's some pictures internal to the site. This is a similar project that they did in Texas. This is not the apartment rentals that we lived in 10 years ago. There's high-end amenities, granite countertops, and same thing with the outdoor. You have your clubhouse, pool, your grilling stations, outdoor seating. So they plan to do something similar for this project here in Stallings. We like to end with the benefits of conditional zoning. As you know, you guys can add conditions. It also provides detailed site plan. What you see is what you get. Certainty with buffers, layout, commitment to amenity areas and setbacks. But with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So you've got, you said 300 units, correct?
Yeah.
And all the parking is outdoor parking?
Correct.
And so how many parking spaces do you have?
470.
What's that?
I think it's 470.
470. We'll have to provide the parking per your code, the ratio.
Yeah, they're in the right smack dab in the middle of the minimum and the maximum. Like 470.
Okay,
For
so
the commercial
three-
area also?
Yes.
Yeah, so 309 is required. We're providing over 470.
Okay.
What are you expecting, like school-age children to be residents of this, or do you not have an expected,
We don't at this point in time.
Where do you stand on sewer?
Yeah. We have submitted a sketch plan. We're through our second review. We're kind of at a standstill until we get farther in this process to know if the zoning is going to happen. Because the next step is construction plans, a new full set of construction plans to get sewer allocation. And that's why we're asking for the 7 years of vested rights. So if we don't get sewer within that timeline, we're starting over. We're back here in front of you guys, going through the same public process, asking for a similar zoning.
And these are all townhomes,
These are multifamily.
so they're apartments. Okay.
given a traffic study has not been done, like for the right turn out of the development, would there be room if like DOT suggested a little bit of a merge lane to develop that?
Yes, will be subject to DOT approval,
Okay.
and that's one thing they'll look at is the site access, along with any other intersections in the area. They have a low level of service kind of grading system A through F, and if you're at a C, if that intersection's running at a C and our trips add and make that a D, we are required to mitigate those trips to bring that level of service of that intersection back to what it was prior to our
It tends
development.
to, it's not as bad in that direction, but coming in from the west, it backs up really bad there, but since this does not go straight across, then that would mitigate that, so.
Is there a turn to the industrial location to the north of you off of 74? Do they have a
There's
left turn?
access to that site
Okay.
currently.
So that wouldn't be a service, would that be just outside your 30-foot buffer on the north, where that road is, to that side?
Yeah, let's see if I
Or is
can
it
find
further
the
north?
area.
I have Go Maps up online too.
So it looks like they have 1, 2, 3, which DOT would never allow.
But again, it's still, the divider's still there, is it correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
those,
so
I don't
just-
think you can go straight across to the
Yeah, okay,
eastbound
okay,
from any of those
Yeah.
anymore.
yeah.
If you go to the prior slide with the site plan, on the southern exit there, where does that go out to? Does it go like to the side of the building in the adjacent property, kind of in that alleyway?
Okay. So that would line up to the back of their property.
Yeah, would that be like a usable exit and entrance, or no?
If this site was redeveloped, yes. As it is now, no.
Did you wanna say something?
No, I was just shaking my head. If there's anything like, so, hi, my name's Justin Houston. I work for Mill Creek. We're based at, real quick, we did show some Texas examples because they're similar, but Alex and I both sit here in the Charlotte area, live here as well. This will be our third project as Mill Creek here in the Charlotte market. So we're excited about this one. So real quick on a couple things on access. Yes, we barely trigger the NCDOT threshold for a traffic study, so we'll go through that on staff level approval. Right now, we're only anticipating really a right turn lane or a deceleration lane into the site. Tens of thousands of cars a day on Independence 74, so we're not really anticipating us being more than a drop of the bucket anywhere else up and down 74. So the ball in the right turn lane or the turnaround in our site actually we think is advantageous to our site versus the people across the street. We think there's going to be a lot of people coming from Atrium, CBCC, that area. So we think our, in the morning you're going to be able to head up that way or 485, whatnot. And then as well coming home, just looping in and around. We did try to plan around this access as best we could away from both this existing building as well as this kind of, let's call it a corridor through this fitness connection. This is there's a lot going on here, let's say. So we tried to best place our access where we could away from everything. And then as stated, they're going through Indian Trail, it's light industrial. They are not proposing anything to us. I'd rather them not have the ability to drive through our site with them being a light industrial, so we would close that off. I think that's best for both of us.
Okay.
I said a lot there, but I don't know if I answered the
Yeah,
question.
that's good, that's good.
So what goes into the choice between like staying Union County, Indian Trail, and Stallings?
So we were going to have to annex to multifamily. So
Okay.
it was going to be Indian Trail or Stallings. That's something we've been working on this one for over a year now. Met with Max and his team, very responsive, very helpful. I think it lines up with the future land use, from it, changing and what can be done there. As mentioned, the commercial component is something we heard and listened to and feel like it's something we can add to it in a limited fashion, and thinking that putting commercial up front kind of helps buffer a little bit from 74. Also kind of keeps a lot of cross traffic kind of contained, I guess, if you will. I think there's probably going to be a lot of morning commuters, if I'm guessing, dropping in there to maybe a nice coffee shop or something like that. So, but we just, in the responsiveness and working with Max and his team, quick on emails, which is always the most beneficial thing in my mind when working with a town. So it caught up legs and we kept going with it essentially.
Okay.
So.
Any other questions?
No.
Nope.
Do I have a motion
Annexation's not,
Yeah, it's not, it's council.
just the zoning. Any concerns other than, I mean, the traffic will be
No.
addressed with the traffic study before the.
Yeah, we'll hear about that.
We're just
worried about those
right
now.
Yeah.
And I think given the space, that there's not much more room near us to annex anything, so to be able
No.
to add commercial and residential, I think is a net positive.
Indian Trail, get
Yeah, yeah.
As long as you don't put a massage parlor in.
We'll add that to the conditions of approval. I did want to mention, Matt's mentioned two conditions. We just want the ability, before it goes to public hearing and council, to work through those two, which is the commercial first. We'll figure out a way to work that in, and your all's review of the elevations. We're hoping to get to an elevation that both staff, council, you all like before the public hearing, so we'll continue to work with staff ahead of.
And Max, anything we do is not gonna hinder staff in, like, the way we word.
It won't hinder staff,
Okay.
but base your recommendation, what you guys think is appropriate.
So why don't I make a motion to approve the request as presented, and also find that it is inconsistent with the land use plan, but also reasonable.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor?
And vote.
Aye.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is number 5, conditional rezoning of CZ 25.2.03 to 3919 and 3927, Pleasant Plains Town Center 1. Mr. Max.
I just wanted to show the statement of consistency just for the previous conditional zoning. I just have to show it for the record. So,
Okay. So,
I will move on to the next one. Excuse me. All right, so like you said, this is conditional zoning, CZ 250203. And I named the case 3919 and 3927 Pleasant Plains Town Center. And the reason for one is that there's 2 Pleasant Plains Town Center conditional rezonings, and I didn't want them to get confused. So this one's one. They're different developers, different applicants. I'll get into that later. So the applicant Mona T LLC requested conditional zoning for conditional zoning town center TC for the properties I mentioned at 2.63 acres in size. The proposed development includes 12 shopfront units, which means a commercial retail in the bottom and residential up top, and 23 townhomes in the rear. This is the site plan that they were submitted, and it's cropped, but I just wanted to zoom in so that you could see it as best you can. Along the southern portion of the site is Pleasant Plains Road, and I'll get to the exact location on a future aerial and another slide. They're also incorporating streetscape. We adopted a streetscape plan recently, and they are the first applicant to submit streetscape in the town center zoning. The buildings that you see after the streetscape are shop fronts with the retail on the bottom and commercial on the bottom and apartments on top. Then there's a parking lot, and then there's 23 townhomes behind that as well. So the existing base zoning for this property town center does not permit attached residential by right, so the townhomes that are incorporated in apartments. So that's, as a result, they're required to do a conditional zoning, and that's why we're here tonight. The aerial of the property, there's currently 2 homes on the site. Sorry, I'm losing my voice already after just one item. And it's surrounded by Stallings municipally, if that's a word. This is a zoomed out picture of the aerial. As you can see, the southern, it's outlined in red along Pleasant Plains, and to the right or to the east is Pleasant Plains and Potter, and then to the north is Stallings Road, Potter, and Old Monroe Road. And I can show you on another map too.
Okay.
To
Where's
make-
Rock Store?
Rock Store is very close. It's right
Okay.
here.
It's the
On the
national
other side
window.
of Pleasant Plains, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
But I can show you on another map
Okay.
to make it more detailed. So as I said, the site is 2.63 acres in size. What's interesting about town center zoning is they're not required to do open space or tree save. They're in the 12-mile watershed, which is more beneficial to them than Crooked Creek, than the previous one rezoning, because there is a sewer expansion online, or coming to like 1 to 2 years for this site. There's no greenway master plan for this area because there's a streetscape master plan, it doesn't overlap, and they are not required to do the TAA, the traffic impact analysis, because the site's of the size. The future land use for the site's town center, and what they're proposing is consistent with the town center zoning category, or future land use category. And if I'm going too fast, let me know. There's also a town center small area plan that shows, it's kind of in this area is in this box right here, and it's showing retail and mixed use, which this site is also doing, mixed use and retail. So the combination of retail and residential that they're showing. Additionally, they're showing the streetscape, which is consistent with their streetscape master plan, or it's called the Stallings Streetscape Design Standards and Detail Plan, but I just call it the Streetscape Master Plan. They're proposing a streetscape type 1B, which is a 14-foot multi-use path with a 6-foot paver strip, and then the retail. And that's exactly what they're showing with the shopfront units. So this is just a zoomed in picture of the site plan. And then this is the requirement from the streetscape details plan. Like I said in the previous conditional zonings, all rezonings are advertised per state statute and ordinance, which are 500 feet. Mail notices. We had a subcommittee meeting, a neighborhood meeting on April 1st. We had a few residents come out. They didn't share too many concerns. And then there's the subcommittee meeting was on May 20th. Tonight's planning board, and the potential council meetings on July 14th. I did want to kind of, just for the record, there's a second Pleasant Plains Town Center conditional rezoning, and they had a neighborhood meeting last week, or a week or 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. That one has a lot more residential surrounding it, so there was a lot more in attendance for that meeting.
Where's that?
But it's across the street. I can show you on the map in just a second. But this one doesn't encompass a lot of residential within the 500 feet, like the second town center conditional zoning does. Let me show you, before I get into the details of this one, I just wanted to show you on Go Maps, Union County Go Maps. This is the site we're talking about, these two parcels. And if you go east, you get to the Potter Road and Pleasant Plains Road section. And if you go west, you get to the Rock Store and Norman Road. The second one that is going to work before planning board in August, I think. Yeah, I think it's August, is on the other side of the road in a different council district. So this one's on this location. It's a little bit larger.
Ooh.
All the information for this is online, but we're not discussing this one tonight for consideration. We are discussing the one on the other side of the road.
That's between Callanwood and the other subdivision on the other side, correct?
It's between two townhome complexes.
Arlington Downs.
Yes.
Oh, it's two
Arlington
towns.
Downs
Okay,
is
it's
a
not
great
that far
place.
down yet. Okay.
Yeah.
Max, I know this was 2 months ago, but is there anything that was noteworthy from the neighborhood meeting for this?
We did not have any strong feedback on what the public wanted. I think there was only two people in attendance, and they just were coming for information. They didn't. So I hope that answer your question.
Thanks.
Okay.
Not to interrupt, but
Yeah, of course.
I did notice the community minutes are in here. You have to go back and look at it.
Yeah, I do have them in here if you want me to reference them. But
That was good.
yeah, it was only two people in attendance. So.
Thanks.
So these are recommended conditions. These are not set in stone. So I just wanted to present these to planning boards. This is what staff's thinking about bringing to council as part of their conditions. The applicant, I haven't fully discussed these with the applicant, but I wanted to show planning board to see what will be discussed before the final town council meeting. So we do recommend approval actually of this conditional zoning, but we do have a few conditions. The first paragraph, just general compliance with permitting. We're requesting the vesting rights from 2 to 5 years. And I'm actually starting to do that in all conditional zonings because of the sewer capacity. We've had some developments that have been waiting since 2019 that still don't have sewer capacity. So I want to make sure that these developments that are coming before you get the vesting rights that they need. The main ones are site design and layout. So we want to limit the height to 45 feet, which is 3 stories. But they don't have to do 3 stories, but we're just limiting there. And then the development limited to 12 shopfront units and 23 townhomes, which is what they're submitting. We did want to recommend that the construction of the shopfront units begin before the townhomes are constructed, and that's consistent with multiple conditional zonings where commercials thought about prior to the rest of the residential being built first. We've had plenty of developments in town that have never built their commercial component that they proposed in a conditional zoning, and we were trying to prevent that for all future conditional zonings coming forward. Now, the streetscape would be dedicated to the town, but the rest of the parking in the streets, we want to recommend that those be maintained privately. I also presented this in the previous conditional zoning, like building elevations, exterior materials be approved by planning board before permitting. But that's up to the developer to agree to upon. I haven't seen elevations yet, so just want to make sure that there's another step for that. I am just requesting exterior materials like vinyl, ephes, and masonite be only allowed for windows, doors, trims. 18 inches of exposed brick or stone required at the base frontage of all units. That's consistent with conditional zonings like Stone Creek, Bailey Mills. And it leads me to my next condition. The property name must incorporate mill and or stone to align with town center branding guidelines. This was mentioned by a council member at the subcommittee meeting. It's consistent. We have the rock store as part of our seal, which is built by stone. And we also have a consistent aesthetic design for conditional zonings with the 18 inches of exposed brick for conditional zonings. We are also requesting, we see that there could be potential parking issues for the site. And even though it's a town center, we're requesting that each townhome include a 2-car garage and a 2-car driveway. I'm not sure if the developer has thought about exactly with the layout of the townhome, but I did want to mention that. And then I'm requesting 1 to 2 EV charging stations in the parking lot, and requesting prohibiting vape shops, tobacco sales, CBD, smoke shops, and hookah lounges, because that's a topic that councils feel strongly about. And then the applicants here, if they want to mention any of these conditions, but these are just recommended, they're not set in stone. So staff does recommend approval of this conditional zoning. It aligns with our comprehensive land use plan, aligns with town center future land use, small area plan, town center, and it aligns with our streetscape design standards plan. So it aligns with all of our plans. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, given what you said, that with all the alignment that exists, are there other parcels in that zoning district where a similar project might be appropriate, to where there'd be a text amendment to the zoning to allow this in the future, or?
So it does depend, because our small area plan has different uses throughout. Like in this general area, if this site was to be expanded upon, everything would probably, and they built it similar, it would be recommending approval because of all the consistency with all of our adopted plans. But if they built it, honestly, most of the small area plan contributes to mixed use. So, it would mostly be recommended approval just based on that. The only time I probably wouldn't not recommend approval is if the developer would push back on streetscape design. We've had conditional zonings in the past where developers did not want to put a greenway in for the greenway master plan, and staff did not recommend approval of that, and then town council also found that agreeable as well. And so we're going to stick to that with the streetscape design standards, a similar narrative. Yes.
Is there any plan to bring that additional going in with the commercial part NCDOT back to where from Potter on Pleasant Plain to Monroe, they widen it to have a center turn lane?
I believe that could be possible. I don't think there's a requirement for that. Traffic in the area right now does look bad because Potter and Pleasant Plains has not been fully completed, that intersection. So I see that there's some traffic issues there right now, but we don't know how the traffic's going to be in the future because Potter and Pleasant Plains is not complete. Then Old Monroe Road's going to be widened in the next few years, and we don't know how that's going to make traffic. There's Matthews Weddington Road that's going to have an exit.
So all the multiple projects
change.
right now are
Mhm.
in the
And
queue.
that'll
ahead of
change
them.
the
Sure.
flow.
Okay, just
So,
curious, yeah. Okay.
We just don't know the future of the traffic in the area.
Okay.
And so I know that some of the public was, for the second town center, was concerned about traffic in the area. I don't believe that as this scale or the scale of the second one is going to fully change traffic tremendously. There's so many traffic improvement projects going on in the area. I think that's what people are seeing, and traffic's just not going to be mitigated until all that's complete for a number of years.
I don't know if this is a better question for Kevin, but about 12 Mile versus Crooked Creek and what makes 12 Mile better at the moment as far as capacity goes.
Yeah, so yeah, it's fine. Engineering can definitely always answer that better, but I would try to do my best. 12 Mile Creek has a capacity being expanded within the next 1 to 2 years. And I don't remember the exact flow, but it's promising that certain sites in 12 Mile will get sewer capacity, where Crooked Creek does not have an expansion on the horizon. So does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Just for my own knowledge, with the town center future plans, is there some kind of a balance that the town is looking for between more residential or more commercial, or is there a balance there?
So, yes, there is a balance. So there is showing, this is the small area plan. There's a variety of uses like attached, multifamily, mixed use on here. So this is the vision. And this was studied during that small area plan. The issue with this small area plan, it was adopted in 2018, I think. And the site everything has changed. But I think this one remains the most consistent small area plan that the town's still striving for. The town's been planning a downtown town center since 2005.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is, as planning director, the first proposal that has actually come to this point.
But if we're not careful, we're going to wind up with more residential than town center, commercial?
We would, that's a potential, but we are
Is that
pushing
what
for
the town
commercial. The town wants more commercial,
Right.
and they are proposing commercial as part of this
Yeah,
component.
I understand that.
So I would say let's say another conditional zoning for this, and in the small area plan for town center comes before the board and it's only residential. If it's not shown on the plan, staff likely is going to recommend not approving it because it's not showing a commercial component. But there's all different nuances.
I remember
to
talking about that
development.
Brookville Village type of situation where all the residential stuff was on the second floor, third floor, commercials were all on the bottom. We wanted to draw more people to this town center, but if the ratio of residential is way out of whack with the commercial component, we're going to wind up with more residential than we are commercial. It's not going to be a town center.
Although the apartment is considered commercial, correct?
Apartments are taxed like commercial, but they're not considered commercial in our zoning.
Well, the town center was to draw more people in,
Right.
coffee shops,
Yeah.
and little shops, and
Yeah.
things that they could wander around, but
pretty much the only thing that draws people in at the moment is just driving through.
Yeah.
There's the park, we have town hall, and there's the Asian market.
And Enzo's.
Enzo's, yes, I've never been there, but I heard good
Get it,
things.
Enzo's.
So
Is anyone here to
this is a
speak on
first step
Yes, the applicant's here, do you, are you prepared to speak to me? Yep.
Yeah, I got a few things to talk about. Whoops. Thank you. Hey, my name is Steve Singleton, landscape architect with Urban Design Partners. So we're representing the applicant today, the developers, and they are here. So there be any more questions, but I just wanted to entertain a couple of questions and maybe add a little more color to the project. And so first, all the questions y'all are asking are all the same questions we're asking. So these are, I think there ought to be a little more maybe consensus, right, on how this vision gets enacted. But what's great is this is an interesting vision for the town of Stallings. And so you talk about residential to commercial or retail, and what is that right ratio? And I don't know what the right ratio is, but I can tell you with like the shop front component, the goal is that in an urban environment, which we're not quite urban yet, but the plan is to become a little more urban and draw people and create like a destination for folks, and obviously serve your community. As you activate the edge, right, that's kind of that urban component. So the shop front components that you see on the plan would be that retail, commercial, professional business, or consulting, finance, you name it, that kind of stuff, pizza, ice cream. So you're gonna get the commercial / retail kind of on the edge. And then the residential obviously would fall behind, but the residential then would support that commercial. The challenge now is, and again, we're excited about this project, but the challenge is being first, right? Being first to anything is kind of a tough place to be. And so we do believe that our plan aligns with the vision and it aligns with the land use plan. The challenge will be, what is that, I shouldn't say cost, but there's going to be a great cost to bring this thing to market, right? So the streetscape is something that you guys don't have yet and we're willing to implement. I think it's going to be a great addition. But again, the challenge being first is you get up with a streetscape with no connectivity. So hopefully there's some momentum that will come from a project like this where you start to see that connectivity. And of course, as Max pointed out, initially there is one in consideration as well, just up the street. So it seems like there's some good momentum right now in trying to achieve the overall vision and plan for Stallings. But I thought I'd touch on a couple more things too, because you guys asked some really good questions. And so I thought I would add some color on those. As far as like community sentiment, and again, it only was 2 or 3 folks that showed up to the community meeting, probably just because there's not a whole lot of residential around this particular site. But the concerns are typical. It was like, is parking going to be allowed on Pleasant Plains, which it's not. It's NCDOT. But parking, traffic was somewhat of a concern, which Max touched on, and that's not news to anybody here. Questions about Potter Road and when that timeline will wrap up and be implemented. And then there was some concerns about environment and existing trees. So those are some of the things that we will address in the plan, one way or the other. Not a whole lot of trees that we'll be able to save, but the goal will be to save some of those on the periphery. And then with regard to sewer, because you asked, Kevin Parker, we have coordinated with Kevin Parker, and I just wanted to kind of add a little more clarity there too. And Max covered it, but I'm just going to read verbatim. Kevin even said that you guys are correct that the site falls within 12 Mile Creek. At this time, there are no capacity issues within that watershed. And additionally, the expansion is in progress and expected to be online in early 2027. Will that be the case? Who knows? But the fact it's in motion, I think there's going to be some relief relative to 12 Mile Creek and sewer. So those are all good things. A couple more things just to kind of add, and I don't know if I can I go forward here? Let's go. Sorry.
The site plan's at the beginning of the presentation, so if you scroll up.
Well, I think I saw ours on here too, right?
Oh, there you go.
Can I go? Let me see if I can find that.
Oh yeah, put that, your community meeting.
Just because it was colored, it might help. Yeah, maybe that one. It's kind of hard to zoom in on it. But our hope or request, I guess, would just be that hopefully there is alignment with the plan, as Max pointed out. We do believe this is a good precedent project, and I feel really strongly about the value this would add to the community. But the challenge again is going to be the streetscape, which we're totally willing to work with. And I just kind of want clarity too, and we can talk about it later. I guess we'll work with staff to work through some of the recommendations. So the streetscape, we're hoping if what I heard is 14 foot and 6 foot for a total of 20. We believe that's realistic and viable. I think at one point we saw one that was a lot wider, which seemed a little difficult. The shop front, I just wanted to point out though, the shop front, for us, we believe, and the ask of you would just be a conditional approval based on meeting recommendations of staff. I think we still have a ways to go to get alignment with planning staff on the shop front, what that looks like. I think scale is going to be really important. Again, first to market, we want to make sure that we do something that's Stallings scale. So to me, 3 floors, while it might be allowed, maybe too tall, right? But 2 stories seems about right for the town. So scale, architectural fenestration, and really just the quantity of shop front. We're showing 12. We haven't had a chance to kind of dive further with staff on that. But our hope would be that we can find that right number, the sweet spot. So again, our ask would just be that you guys would consider conditional approval based on meeting staff recommendations. So
I know we saw a lot of, I don't know if you're able to scroll back to that page with the listed conditions. A lot of things on there. You know, where do you and the applicant stand on that list of things that I know is like font size 8, but
yeah, I don't think I go past it. Yeah, here.
yeah.
So I read through these, and I actually received these last week. And my apologies, I was traveling into last week, but I have reviewed these. I think all these are fair and realistic. I mean, our hope would be coming out of this today that we are able to reconnect with staff and actually dive into some of these conditions and site changes a little more realistically. None of these are anything that I think are contentious or that we wouldn't agree to. The only few that come to mind though would be, there was something on here about shop front being constructed before residential, which I totally get the reason why, by the way, so I think that's something we need to discuss. But again, what if the sweet spot is maybe 6 shop front or 8 shop front, not 12? I want to make sure there's some language in here that whatever that number is, and we all agree to, that we can still move forward with residential instead of all 12, if 12 is not the right number. So part of that too comes from the similar project to the west, where there was a lot more turnout, a lot more participation from the community. And a lot of the concern was retail, commercial, we don't really want retail, commercial. So it's going to be a fine line of finding what those uses are and what is the right quantity and use. So it's applicable to the site. So specifically, nothing that jumps out though. The EV charging station was one I hadn't seen in the ordinance, and maybe it is or maybe it isn't. I think we're willing to work with that one, but that one jumped out. I hadn't seen that. There is some cost, to be fit for EV charging with transformers and that kind of stuff, but nothing big. So no, nothing jumps out to my knowledge that we couldn't work through.
Any consideration about connectability between the other
Adjacent parcels.
adjacent parcels?
Was that on here too? I saw that somewhere as a
It was
recommendation.
in the.
I didn't see that on the site plan.
It wasn't in this slide, but it was provided in the documents. There's like 2 pages of conditions. This is like really condensed. I tried to fit everything on one page.
But there is.
Yes.
Okay.
And these are just recommendations that will need to negotiate prior to the council meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But I did want to make sure that the planning board saw all these for full transparency, that the staff did recommend some of these conditions, but they're at negotiation.
Yeah, I hate to see, like it normally is, this
100%.
development, then this development, and there's only one entrance to each development, it's not connected.
Yeah, good planning wins that connectivity and driver choice, right? So I think I agree with you wholeheartedly. If there's a way we can create stubs for future connection, yeah, 100% we'll do that.
Yeah.
We're just thinking in the future, the parcels that are between that and Potter Road, are they currently residential?
They
Max?
are.
Or are they currently operated as residential?
I'll just look at the aerial.
A couple
I'm
are
trying to go
vacant, I
back and
think.
find
I
that.
think a couple.
So they,
vacant,
but they would become,
Do you have one?
I pulled up Union County Go Maps on another page that I can. pull
I
up.
think the one they just passed might
And I know directly to the west is a residential.
have. Yeah.
I'm not
So-
sure about Potter Road.
So Potter
So-
Road, these are all residential currently?
Yeah, so like the two, I'm just thinking like eventually to have, you know, adjacent properties, if those are, like, I don't know, like if those are still owned by the occupants, or are they slated for future development,
I
or?
believe they are still owned by
Okay,
the occupants or rented out by the
okay, so they're,
owners.
but, and they have been rezoned as town center?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
all
that,
this
but
was
that would
done-
only affect if there's redevelopment of the property, correct?
So if they wanted to do only commercial, they would have to follow the town center guidelines.
Okay.
That commercial town center is allowed by right,
Gotcha, yeah,
but residential is not allowed by right.
okay.
So that's why they are going through the conditional zoning
Yeah,
process.
that's, all right.
But yeah, staff does recommend connectivity. Now, the site is constrained, there's a lot of moving parts with the road, the future road connections. And then, you know, council did mention connectivity in their subcommittee meeting and thinking about adjacent parcels for the future. So yes, it has been discussed.
All right, good.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Nope.
I'm excited to see the town
Yeah.
center start,
Yeah, that's cool.
get kicked
All
off.
right, we have a
so,
motion?
yeah.
Either way?
Yeah, I move that we approve the request and find that it's reasonable and consistent with the land use plan.
A second?
I'll let Max show it for the record.
I know, I just have to show it on
Yeah.
the YouTube.
It's not working anyway.
The YouTube's not working? Oh, that's okay. We have the recording. Wait, where's the,
Right there.
thanks. All right,
Okay.
just for clarity.
We have a
and,
second.
even though it's
Do I have a second?
I think.
Second.
Vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Good. Number 6, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Absolutely. I move to
A second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned.